Hi guys, it's Izzy and today I'm going to be doing my July wrap up. By the time you will be seeing this, I will have read 20 books this month. I have read quite a lot more because I've been participating in the reading rush, which has actually been my first ever readathon, and I've been having a great time. I've also been vlogging it, so I will hopefully have finished it by the time you're seeing this and it will be up. Hopefully, if I get around to that. And yeah, so because I've been reading for the reading rush, I'm just going to go over quickly because I've talked about them really in depth in my vlog, so I don't want to make you listen to me talk about them any more times, so I will just quickly run over what I've read and the star ratings I gave them, which has been this week from Monday to currently we're on Saturday. The reading rush finishes tomorrow. So the books I've read so far for the reading rush are Backstages Volume 1 by, what's his name? James Tynion the 6th. Fancy name. This is a graphic novel and I gave it 4 stars. Again, I talk about what it's about and everything in my vlog and how I felt about it, so yeah, I'm just briefly going over these. I then read Only Human, the 3rd book in the Themis file by Sylvain Neuvel. Why does everyone have such hard names? I then read Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. I gave this 4.5 stars. I loved this book and I can't wait to read the second one. This was the first book in like a 9-book series, so I'm set for like the next months coming. I then read Girls with Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young and I gave this 2 stars. Did not enjoy this. And I'm currently almost done with The Female of the Species by Mindy McGuinness. I'll put my final rating in my vlog, and I'm also halfway through Bruja Born, which is the 2nd book in the Brooklyn Bruja series. So yeah, and I might finish one more book, but it will all be in my vlog. So yeah, those are the books I've been reading for the past week. Hi guys, this is actually future Izzy to say that I ended up finishing 24 books in the month of July. I was at 19 books at the time of filming this video, but I just wanted to stop by to let you know what I ended up finishing. So I ended up finishing Bruja Born by Zoraida Cordova, the 2nd book in the Brooklyn Bruja series. I gave it 3 stars. Didn't like it as much as the first one. It was a fine read. I talked about it more in my reading rush vlog. Then finished volume 2 of the Backstages by James Tynion the 6th. Cool name. And I gave it 3 stars. Again, didn't enjoy it as much as the first. Still a fun read. Again, talked about it more in my reading rush vlog. I then finished The Female of the Species by Mindy McGuinness. Gave it 4.5 stars. Very intense read. Pure genius. Loved it. Talked about it more in my reading rush vlog. Read it. And I finished Amy and Roger's Epic Detour by Morgan Matson. Gave it 3 stars. It was a reread. Kind of boring. Kind of insta-lovey. But it had a good conversation around grief and it was a fine book. Again, talked about it more in my reading rush vlog, but the 2 books I also finished at the end of the month that weren't in my reading rush vlog was Feminists Don't Wear Pink and Other Lies by a wide variety of authors, but it was compiled by Scarlett Curtis. I didn't rate this because I don't really like to rate non-fiction. I think it's too hard. I don't know, it just feels weird to me. I just can't figure out a rating, but I enjoyed this. It's just like a collection of essays from different women, actresses, journalists, environmentalists, authors, everything. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I think the essay should have been longer. Like there were so many, and there were a lot of ones I enjoyed, but I just think cutting down the number of short stories and making the ones they still kept much longer would have really benefited this book. But if you're looking for essays to read on feminism, especially if you're kind of new to feminism, then I would recommend this book. It was well done. I just think the essay should have been quite a lot longer. And the final book I finished in July was Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. I'm not entirely sure how you say her name, and I gave that 3 stars. I really liked the premise of this. This is a sort of novella. It's not very long, and it follows a girl who, it's like a sci-fi, it's set in space, and she leaves her home village tribe thing to go on a spaceship to attend a very prestigious maths university in the space world, but along the way her ship is attacked and she has to survive. And again, this premise was great. The world building was great. It was just a really solid idea, but it could have been so much better if it was so much longer. I was just getting into it, and then it was like finished. And the thing is, Binti was the main character, but there were literally like no other characters in this book, and quite a lot of characters died who were supposedly close to Binti, but we didn't even know their names. Like, we'd never met them, so like when they die, it's like I literally couldn't care less. Like, I've never met you. It's sad that someone has died, but we just didn't know anything about these people. So yeah, strong premise, should have been a lot longer. I think there are like 2 other books, but they're all like really short, so I don't know if I'll continue because I just didn't care enough. So yeah, that is officially all the books I have read in July. Enjoy the rest of the video. Now let's go, shall we do it in chronological order or in star rating order? Let's do it in star rating order this month. We're going to go from lowest to highest because I want to. My lowest rated book this month, aside from the ones I read in the reading rush, which were actually not that great. I gave 2 of them 2 stars, so I clearly was not having a great reading time. But my least favourite book of the month was Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. I actually DNF'd this about 50%. I just was so bored. This book is set in Seoul, and it follows Myung, who is a gumiho, which is like a mythological fox creature, and to survive she has to feed off of men. She then comes across a boy called Jihoon who sees her as a fox and steals her like magical object, and she wants to get it back. And yeah, when he sees her, she somehow loses her fox pearl thing that she needs to be like alive. Does she need to be alive? I can't even remember. But yeah, I was just so bored. The characters were very bland. I couldn't really tell you anything about them. Like, they didn't really have any character traits. The story didn't really seem to have a cohesive plot. It was very meandering and just quite dull. I got to about 50% and I just didn't care. I was forgetting everything as soon as I'd like finished reading, and I just was not invested in the story at all. And I've heard a lot of people compare it to like kind of like Twilight, but like less cringy and in Soul, which I really agree with. Like, I don't know, it just really gives me that vibe and like the romance and stuff. And yeah, I just didn't enjoy it, and I may pick it up again at some point, but for now I just couldn't get through the rest of it. The next book that I gave 3 stars to was Kings, Queens and In-Betweens by Tanya Boteju, I think. Not sure how you say it, sorry. And I gave this 3 stars. This is about a girl called Nima who ends up in the drag world. She is a lesbian and she really likes this girl who she then follows to this like drag place, and she gets into drag. Like, she has a friend who is a drag queen and she helps her to become like a drag king, and there's some romance, there's some family issues. All around, it was a fine book. Like, I didn't not enjoy my reading experience, but again, I had a similar problem like with Wicked Fox, is I was just basically forgetting things as soon as I'd read them. Like, they were going in one side, straight back out the other side, because I just wasn't invested. Again, the characters were quite bland, the story was pretty meandering, and overall it just really didn't capture my attention at all. I really liked the queer themes and the fact that a lot of the characters in the book were queer, and it really explored queer culture and like the drag world, which I thought was the best part of the book. I really enjoyed learning more about that, and it was just a really great thing that's not really explored that much, especially in YA, and that was what kept me reading mainly. And I really did like Nima as a main character, like she was good enough. And the best character by far was Deidre, a woman she met and who helped her like enter into the drag world. She was amazing, by far the best character. I loved her. But yeah, overall this was just a bit of a unmemorable read. The next book I read that got 3 stars was Aru Shah and the End of Time by Roshni Chokshi. This is about a girl called Aru who loves to lie. She loves to like make believe, and one day she really wants to impress these peers that she has at school. This is a middle grade, by the way, and her mum runs a museum based around like Hindu mythology and like Indian culture and that kind of stuff, and Aru has been told never to light this lamp because it will like release a curse. And one day Aru decides to try her luck and everything goes terrible. A creature is unleashed that will stop time, so everyone else is frozen, and Aru and her soul sister Minnie have to go on an adventure to save everybody and restart time. This is part of the Rick Riordan Presents company, which Rick Riordan runs and allows authors to write about their own mythology and their own heritage and publish books, which I think is great. I love mythology, I love Rick Riordan, I've always loved mythology. It's just something that gets me really excited, and I definitely enjoyed learning about Hindu mythology. It was really interesting, and I really liked Aru and her sister Minnie. Their relationship was great, and probably my favourite thing about this book was how subtly funny it was. It was genuinely really funny, but it didn't ever feel like it was trying too hard, like it was like, oh, you should be laughing at this joke I've made. It was just really like casual and subtle and really made me laugh quite a few times, so that was definitely the best thing about this book. But overall the story just didn't really engage me. I felt quite removed from it, and overall I just wasn't really interested, and I don't think that's because it's middle grade, because I have a lot of middle grade books I love, but this one just didn't 100% work for me. So we're moving on to the 3.5 stars, and the first book that got 3.5 stars was Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. Again, I gave this 3.5 stars. This is a book about a girl called Elizabeth who works in a great library, and in these libraries are books that are like magical creatures but like in books, and basically she has to like protect the books and protect the library. It's kind of confusing, but yeah. And then one day her like mentor person is killed and she is framed for the crime, but I was really expecting the large majority of this book to take place in a library setting, which is what I was really excited for, and I was a bit disappointed that maybe like 10 to 15% of it took place in the library and the rest of it was just in the world. But I did have a really great time reading this. It was really fun, the story was interesting, I was kept engaged and entertained. I didn't really feel attached to any character except for Silas. I loved Silas, I thought he was a really interesting and complex character, and I really loved every scene that he was in. He definitely made the book for me. I didn't really feel anything for the romance that happens, it felt quite bland, although I did like that it was a very respectful and trusting and good relationship, like it was a healthy relationship, and I was glad that that had happened. But overall the characters again were just a bit bland and it didn't really excite me, and I saw a lot of people loved it, and that's fantastic, and I absolutely have nothing wrong with the book. It just didn't really do a lot for me. Like I didn't really think about it after I'd finished it. It was kind of just like, finished it, moving on with my life. And if I like really love a book, I will think about it for many a day afterwards, and this book just didn't really enter my brain again, but I had a fun time reading it. It just wasn't really anything special for me. The next book to get 3.5 stars was Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde, and it's about three friends, Charlie, Jamie and Taylor, who go to this convention, and Charlie is like famous, she's a famous YouTuber and also an actress, and she is there to like promote her movie and stuff. And yeah, it's kind of like Comic-Con. It's basically Comic-Con. It's called SuperCon, but yeah, it's basically Comic-Con. And she goes there with her two other friends, Taylor and Jamie. Charlie is bisexual and Taylor is autistic and has anxiety, and I really liked that representation. We never see girls who are on the autistic spectrum in books, and it was really great to see that in YA. That was fantastic, and I'm not autistic myself, but I've heard the rep is pretty accurate, and I do have anxiety, and I felt the rep for that was pretty accurate, like with panic attacks and that kind of stuff. There is also a female-female romance in this, and overall it was just a really fun read. It's definitely quick moving. I didn't feel too bored. I was kind of worried because I didn't really know how much she could do with this plotline, but there was certainly a lot of drama, certainly a lot of topics discussed, and overall it was a really fun read. And again, I just didn't really feel that engaged by it. Like, I was enjoying my time reading it, but again, I didn't really think about it after I'd finished it, and the characters just weren't that memorable. But it was a fun time. I would definitely recommend it if you're like just looking for a fun summery read, something to read on the beach, whatever, and I would potentially reread it at some point. It just was like okay, but it was a really fun read, so if you had your eye on it, I do still recommend it. It just wasn't anything like super special. Now we are moving on to the 4-star books. I actually had a pretty good reading month this month, and there was actually quite a lot of 4 and 5 stars, so I'm excited to talk about them. The first book I gave 4 stars was A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallero. This is a book that follows the descendants of Sherlock Holmes and John Watson, and we have two characters, Charlotte Holmes and Jamie Watson, and they are in the same like boarding school, but one day crimes from the original Sherlock stories are being recreated and students are being killed in the same way that the mysteries were in Sherlock's stories, and Charlotte and Jamie are being framed for them. I loved this book. I had such a good time reading this. I just absolutely flew through it because it was so engaging. This was a book that really got me excited to read. I was really like looking forward to every time I picked it up. It was super captivating. I really loved the dynamic of the friendships. I actually wrote quite a long review on my Goodreads, so I will leave that down below if you want to check out more of my thoughts. But overall, the characters were interesting, the dynamics were compelling, the story was mysterious, and I definitely didn't guess everything that was going to happen, which can happen for me. I'm usually pretty good at seeing where a story was going to go, but this book did continue to surprise me. Obviously it didn't like totally surprise me, I did work some things out, but it was definitely like not simple. And I really liked how traditionally mystery it was. A lot of books these days I think are very thrillery, and although there's sort of a mystery, it's very like focused on like the thriller aspect, and I liked how traditionally mystery this book felt. It felt more akin to like Agatha Christie books, which I loved when I was younger, and so overall this book was just really up my alley. And yeah, it didn't quite get 5 stars for me because again it didn't like stick in my brain, but I would highly recommend this book, and if you were thinking about picking it up, I would definitely recommend it. The next book to get 4 stars was Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova. This is a book about a girl called Alex who is a bruja, which is like, her family is like, oh, I don't remember where they're from, but she's Latina, and she is a bruja, which is like basically a witch, and she is extremely powerful, but she decides she wants to get rid of her power because she thinks it can only destroy and bring bad luck and bad things to her family. So she wants to get rid of it, but in doing so she accidentally banishes her family to this magical island I think it's supposed to be like a retelling of Labyrinth, the film from, I don't know, when was it, in the 80s, with David Bowie in it. And yeah, she then has to go to this island and proceed to rescue her family. And I really was quite surprised by how much I enjoyed this book. It was just really like magical, and I really liked the vibe it gave me. I loved Alex as the main character. She was super interesting, and just I felt very connected to her as a character. The two supporting characters were a boy called Nova, who was kind of just okay. Like, I didn't really hate him, I just didn't really like him. And Alex's best friend, what's her name? Oh my god, what's her name? Rishi, and her best friend Rishi, and they have to rescue her family on this magical island. And it was just a really fun read. The plot was really interesting. I really loved the setting of this magical island. The villain was compelling, and I really loved the like journey on the way there. I liked how much Alex cared about her family and loved her family. I really liked the family dynamic, and overall it was just a really great time. There is also a female-female romance in it. I believe Alex is bisexual. I don't think it's ever stated, I can't remember, but there is a female-female romance. And I'm currently in the middle of the second one, Bruja Born. I'm not enjoying this one as much just because I don't like the main character as much as I loved Alex, because I really did love Alex. So yeah. The next book to get 4 stars was Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This is the first book in the Themis Files. This is a sci-fi series about a girl who one day falls into the palm of a humongous hand, and following that she then is obsessed with this hand and where it came from, and she proceeds to try and find the other parts to this huge robot thing. This was a book that again really excited me. I was so compelled by it. I just wanted to keep reading. I was really excited every time to pick it up, and overall it was just a really exciting read. I'm not entirely sure whether I love or hate the format. It's written in like diary entries, like recorded voice messages, discussions between 2 characters. There is no prose. Everything's basically dialogue. So it kind of helps the story move along very quickly, but also makes you feel a little bit detached from the book, from the characters. I don't know, I can't make up my mind about whether I loved it or not. I'm not 100% sure. It was really interesting, and yeah, it was just a really cool read, and got me excited to read sci-fi again. I haven't read that much of it this year, and now I'm thinking of changing that because I had such a great time reading this book. And then the final book to get 4 stars was Waking Gods, the second book in the Themis Files by Sylvain Neuvel, and this book just follows on from the first book. I can't talk about the plot because it would spoil the first book, but I liked this book just as much. I think maybe even a little bit more, like a little splash more than the other book, but overall it was just a super engaging read. The plot was very fast moving, and I definitely was not expecting a lot of it to happen, and it really excited me. It's just a shame that the third book got 2 stars. If you've read this series, just forget the third book. It kind of ruins it for me. Just enjoy the first 2 books. They're great. Now we are on to the 5 stars, of which I actually read quite a lot. And the first book that got 5 stars, and is definitely going to be on my top list of 2019, is of course Red, White and Blue by Casey McQuiston. Who doesn't love this book? That's the real question. This is a book about the son of the first female president of the USA called Alex, and the prince in England called Henry, and they have a sort of altercation and really hate each other, but the teams decide, press teams decide that that's a bad image for them, and so they want them to hang out and seem buddy-buddy so they can improve their image in the public eye. So they have to hang out, and we can see where it goes from here. It's an enemies to begrudging friends to lovers situation. It was fantastic. I again wrote a really long detailed review on Goodreads, so I will leave that down below because it basically summarised all my thoughts, and I put a lot of work into that review, so if you really want to know more about my thoughts, I will leave that down below. But this book was just so good. I cried through like the last 50 pages. I was so emotional. I just loved Alex and Henry so much. They are so dear to my heart. I just adore them, and the romance was fantastic, the banter was fantastic, the writing was fantastic, the political storyline was perfect, and just everything about this book I loved. I absolutely loved. The supporting cast was fantastic. Like literally every character in this book was compelling, even like the smallest side characters. It was just outstanding, and I already want to reread it. I've had to hold myself back from rereading it. I just love it so much. The next book to get 5 stars was The House of Hades by Rick Riordan. This is the 4th book in the Heroes of Olympus series. This series follows 7 demigods who are half human, half god, as they go on a quest to stop the earth god Gaia. I think it's pronounced, I've always thought it was Gaia until I listened to the audiobooks and they said Gia. So Gia, I think, and I just love this series. I obviously can't tell you what the 4th one is specifically about because it would ruin the series, but I feel like this is my favourite book of the series. I'm still not 100% decided, but I just love this book. All the characters are amazing. I love all of them so much. The plot in this is fantastic. Like the last 150 pages, like Rick Riordan snapped. Like he was like hard. He went so hard on the last 100 pages. It was just incredible, and I had so much fun reading it, and I love it so much. The next book to get 5 stars is Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. Oh, how many good things do I have to say about this book? So many. Also, I'm so pleased because I got the signed and doodled version from Waterstones, and this is like my favourite book I own because I adore Alice Oseman, and oh, it just brings me so much joy. But this is a graphic novel about 2 boys, Nick and Charlie, who become friends in senior school. They're British, and then something more, but this is just the most delightful graphic novel ever. It is so sweet, it makes me so happy, it's just so heartwarming. I love Nick and Charlie, like separately, together, they're just perfect. I love them so much, and honestly, if you need something to make your heart warm, these are amazing. Also, if you've like read both of these volumes and you want more of Nick and Charlie, the actual like online graphic novel is so much longer, so if you want more of that content you can check it out online. I'll leave the description down below because I've read it too many times. I love it. Okay, we're going to try and get through these books as quickly as we possibly can. The next book that got 5 stars is The Blood of Olympus by Rick Riordan. This is the final book in the Heroes of the Olympus series. I loved this book so much more than I thought I did. I remember being quite disappointed by the ending of this book, but rereading it now, I love this book. I'm gonna try and stop there because this is getting too long. I love this book, read this series. Percy Jackson is great, Rick Riordan is great. I've read every single one of his books, love him. The next book to get 5 stars is Birthday by Meredith Russo. Also look at this fun pages, I love it. This is a book about 2 best friends, Eric and Morgan, and they were born on the same day, so they share their birthdays, and we follow each birthday from ages, is it 10 to 18? Like 9 to 18? It's a lot of birthdays. And Morgan is trans. She is originally in a boy's body and she is really struggling. She just wants to escape and she really struggles with that in her conservative town. But Morgan and Eric's friendship is absolutely beautiful. I love it so much. Their relationship is just absolutely wonderful. I read this book so quickly because I just loved Morgan and Eric instantly. Like literally 30 pages in, I would die for them. They were so great. I loved them so much. This does have a lot of trigger warnings. I will list all the trigger warnings down in the description box, but trigger warning for suicide attempt, depression, misgendering, homophobia, etc, etc, but I'll make sure I leave all of the ones down in the description box. But this book was superb. I have nothing but good things to say about this book. It is just exceptional and everyone should read it. And that is all of the books I've read this month. Again, if you want to see more about the books I've read this week, you can look at my vlog. I hope you've made it through this video because I can't stop talking and I read too many books and I love them too much. But I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what your favourite book of the month was. I can't decide. I loved all of them so much. I think it has to be Red, White and Royal Blue, Heartstopper and Birthday. I can't choose. I loved them so much. I love all these books so much. But yeah, let me know what your favourite book of the month was. I would love to know. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day and I will see you next time. Bye!